everybody. Welcome into the Early Edge Live Sunday night edition. It was what has been one of the craziest Week 1 Sundays as far as sports betting is concerned that we have ever seen. We're going to be here for the next hour and 15 minutes, counting down to Sunday Night Football, the Bears and the Rams, and I've got a full slate of guys to talk about this incredible day. So let's go ahead and bring in the stars of the show right now. And I tell you what, Alex will be here in a matter of moments. There he is right here. Prop Stars, what's good, man? How are you?
I'm awesome, Coach. How are you, man? What a crazy day of football.
Crazy. We're going to try to get to every single game in the next hour and 15 minutes. Now, Mim Squared, he's trying to do DFS. He's trying to do the Sunday night game. Mikey, was today crazy or what?
Today has been crazy for sure. I think a big story is I want to get everyone's take on Aaron Rodgers. Is this an intentional job to get shipped out of town or not? That's my question there. They've been absolutely awful so far today, but doing well. It's going to be a fun game tonight.
It may be the worst performance in Aaron Rodgers' career. Currently 38-3, 4 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and we will get to that. Now, the Browns just fumbled a punt. The punter literally dropped the snap. It's 29-27 Browns, but the Chiefs have the ball inside the Browns' 20-yard line, down by 2. Patriots just got the ball back, 17-16, and the Broncos up by 20 in the Meadowlands. Now, Manny's only going to be here for a couple of minutes. Emery Hunt, welcome back to the Early Edge. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fine, man. I'm glad to be on the show. What a way to start Week 1.
Oh, I've got my 11-year-old son right here. I told him. I said, when something we got a touchdown. Travis. All right, I'm on my iPad. Thank you, Mikey. 2 Chiefs fans on the show. Emery, I apologize. This is just flying by the seat of our pants. So, Travis Kelce finds the end zone again, and the Chiefs that were down by 12 at halftime have retaken the lead at home, and Arrowhead is absolutely rocking. Emery, we're going to get to you quickly because I know you got to go. But we got to say hello to the Zach Attack. Zach, what's good, man?
I'm doing great, Coach. I took a week off just to rest up for football season. I'm feeling great, doing good in NFL today, and excited about Sunday Night Football.
Oh, good. You're one of the only ones apparently in America that's doing good today in the NFL. It's been nuts. So tonight, Bears-Rams. Rams minus 7.5. And I know, Emery, you've got 4 or 5 plays that you want to give out for that game. Can you give them out right now before you have to go, please?
Yeah, for the Rams' sake, I like Darrell Henderson going over 13.5 yards receiving. To me, that's an easy number, a low number for him. That's one screen pass with his speed and explosiveness. And on the other side of the field, another running back, David Montgomery, facing that Rams defense, I have going under 50.5 yards rushing. I think we're going to see them air it out a little bit more so because they won't be able to run the football with Montgomery and company. And also, I'm leaning toward the under on a total. I think we'll see a defensive slugfest. Both are really good defenses. And overall, I do say lay the points with the Rams. If they were starting Justin Fields, maybe you have a little bit of the wild card factor in there, but they're starting Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton is not the most athletic. Aaron Donald and company should have their field. They should be able to set up shop in the backfield. So land the points with the Rams on opener. We saw this game last year when it was Nick Foles at quarterback. So I don't think anything changes now that Andy Dalton is a quarterback in the same offense. So lay the points with the Rams.
Now, let me ask you this, because we've seen it all day today. It's been a dog-eat-dog Week 1. And also, when you lay 7.5, but yet you're playing the under, does that give you any pause whatsoever?
Not at all, because you look at who's driving the ship, like who's handling the football every play, and that's Andy Dalton. And trust me, the Rams could win this game 13-3, and I would cover it. So I'm not worried about Andy Dalton, hurting me. If this was a difference maker at quarterback, then perhaps. But when you say you about to let Andy Dalton throw and you about to run David Montgomery against the Rams defense, man, give me that under and also give me the other team on the scoreboard.
I can't help but remember what Andy Dalton said last week. He said, Justin Fields is going to have a great career, but this is my time. This is my time. Well, you had, 12 years in Cincinnati to be your time, and you did nothing.
Even if you go by last year, this was a chance for you to rewrite your history. You hadn't won in the playoffs, and you had essentially a playoff game with the Cowboys where you had to win and get in. And what did Andy Dalton do? Play the worst game he did in Dallas, that game that they needed to win to get in. So I'm completely out on Andy Dalton.
All right. The rest of the crew, there's going to give their leans and their picks later in the show. Again, we'll be here until 8:15 Eastern time. Emory will be here for about another 8 or 9 minutes or so. So we'll get to him a little bit more early on. But I want to go first to the game today that everybody was on. Earlier in the week, if people played it at 7.5 or 8, they are thanking their lucky stars because it was perhaps the worst bad beat in the history of the NFL. Down 41-17. Down 24 with less than 3 minutes to play. 9-point spread is what it came off at, and they covered. They scored twice, 2 2-point conversions, 41-33. M squared, let's start with you. How bad was that bad beat today?
That was a really bad beat there. It almost got even worse if you had any of the other numbers because they were threatening to score again as time expired. They almost put up another one. But yeah, that was a bad beat. Hopefully you got that one in early. And if not, hopefully you watched the early edge live this morning when said once it gets to 9.5, I would probably pause a little bit. And remember, you don't have to every game there. So hopefully we saved somebody a little bit there that got there at the late number. But
you gave that great
bad
advice.
Beat, sure.
Bad beat. Emory, let's come back to you. I know you got to go. What did you make of the fact that the Niners, they scored 41. Jimmy G looked great. Trey Lance, he threw a touchdown on his first pass attempt, but yet their defense at the end just couldn't cover the spread.
Yeah, it was remarkable to watch because you're playing a Jared Goff-led offense, and all you have to do is blitz and pressure him, and you get what you want. So I was shocked to see them come back like that and score in bunches. So that had to be probably the worst bad beat of the day.
Zach, I don't know if you were on this game or not, but this has happened to all of us before where we look at a score and we go, oh, man, we're putting that in the bank, and we go and focus on something else, and then our account doesn't update. And you're like, what happened? And then you realize that you had a bad beat. Whose fault was it today that they didn't cover the spread?
Man, I think it's just like what Emory just said. They got relaxed. Jared Goff used to play in that division before he got traded, so he just started picking them apart. And it's one of those where you start looking at the clock. It happens week 1 every year in the NFL. Remember last year it was the Bears and Lions with that crazy ending, down a lot of points. 2 years ago it was the Jets and Bills where the Jets came back and covered. It just keeps happening. But Jared Goff just started picking them apart because they were easing on defense, and he knows that defense really well from the last 4 years.
You're exactly right about that. From a prop standpoint, Alex, Deebo Samuel had a 79-yard touchdown reception. Jimmy G, he throws for over 300 yards. Did anything in this game surprise you from that standpoint?
I mean, Deebo looked fantastic. He was just getting open at will. Obviously, he's displayed a great connection with Jimmy G. Yeah, I think he's going to have a huge season as long as he stays healthy. Elsewhere, TJ Hawkinson looked awesome. He's going to receive a ton of targets from Goff. If you recall, I loved his season-long future. It's one of my futures plays. So, yeah, I think TJ Hawkinson's also in store for a very big season.
I got to come back to you in a second because I got to get back to Emory because I got to ask you about another play we have from our NFL futures, and we saw him getting carted off the field at the Meadowlands today. So we'll get back to him in a second. But, Emory, I want to switch gears now, and probably one of the games that had the most attention on it today was how would the Steelers respond to the end-of-the-year collapse last year despite making the playoffs? And then are the Bills the Super Bowl team that they think they are? When you watched this game today, the Steelers winning by 7 on the road as 6.5-point underdogs, what did you see?
I saw a Steelers team that won in spite of their quarterback play. Their defense won them this football game. Ben made a couple of plays, but he didn't look himself, man. And again, it's age. So that really was shocking to me. And I'm not surprised at the Josh Allen we saw because when you go back to him in junior high school up until last year was the anomaly. He had the one good year, and now he's back to playing inconsistent, erratic hero ball. He missed 3 touchdowns today that would have blown the doors off the Steelers because of the offensive side of the ball for Pittsburgh just wasn't, having success. But because he was inconsistent, it allowed the Steelers to hang around, and he put the ball on the turf twice. You can't do that. You're seeing that with Daniel Jones right now. He was playing his best game up until the fumble, and then everything just went to chaos. So more shocked at how the Steelers offense just doesn't look right, and I think that's going to be a concern.
They lost 4 of their final 5 last year after starting 11-0, and they looked awful in the playoff game against the Cleveland Browns. But at least for this week, At least they were able to get the W as they try to get going back. Now, is there any concern, Mikey, from what you saw, the fact that the Bills at home with all of this hype, new contract for Josh Allen, and then they lay an egg and they run 24 fewer plays? The Steelers did to beat the Bills, but they still got it done.
Yeah, I mean, they got it done. They had, like I said, the defense was excellent. The special teams touchdown there really changed that game a lot as they were starting to come back a bit. So obviously you should be concerned and you should take note of it. But as far as is the team in massive trouble, is their season over? I definitely wouldn't say that just yet. It's a very, very tough opponent. Pittsburgh's one of those teams that they're not going to really blow away and blow out many teams. But when their defense is on and special teams is on, if they can manage the quarterback play just a little bit, they're going to have competitive games with 75% of the league or more. So I'm not overly concerned about Buffalo yet, but obviously you do take note of it, and it definitely hurts their chances of winning the Super Bowl going forward. But I think they regroup and learn a lot from that.
Yeah, no doubt. 23-6, they got scored in the second half. I know you got to leave in 1 minute, Emory. Any final thoughts or any other thoughts you had on games today that you want to share with the people at home before you got to get out of here?
My May prediction about Philadelphia and Jalen Hurts is looking outstanding, so I am excited. Told people back then that this dude was legit, and the Eagles are going to be a really good offense to watch. I'm excited to see how they do moving forward. So I'm sitting pretty right now.
Oh, very good. And Jalen Hurts today, I want to go ahead and bring it up and show people 27 of 35, 264 yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. You can see Emory on the CBS Sports HQ all the time. Where else are you going to be this fall, Emory?
Oh, man, I'm calling football games, high school games, and college games. So you'll see me calling high school games this weekend or this Friday in Harrisburg, PA. I think it's on CBS 21. Cool. And this week I have a Georgetown-Harvard game. That's on a different network. I'm not going to give that network prop right here on the show. But, yeah, you'll see me doing high school and college games this fall.
Hey, guess what? We actually admit there are other networks, so it's okay if you say Fox. It's okay if you say NBC. We say
okay, I'll be on ESPN Plus then. Calling the Georgetown Harvard game this weekend. I didn't want to get fired.
Hey, I do PFL on ESPN, so I'm good. We're good. This is the dominant brand, though. We know that it's CBS.
Exactly.
We look forward to having you on every single week. You're next level genius when it comes to NFL and all of football. So thank you. We'll look forward to you on those games, okay?
Good luck tonight, guys.
AB, get him out of here. He's got to go do CBS Sports HQ. Boy, he's a really, really smart dude, that guy. Thank you, Emory. Now we can get down and we can get dirty. And I know, Prop Stars, I didn't get to you, but quickly, because there's games going on right now. The Broncos, Jerry Jeudy got carted off in the first half, and he was on a lot of people's list to have big years, to be in that leading the league in receptions or yards, whatever. How big of a jolt, if it's as serious as it looked, is it for a lot of people in the futures prop department?
Yeah, it's massive, Coach. I don't know if you recall, but that was one of the few overs that I really liked as far as season-long futures were concerned for wide receivers. Yeah, I think it's a huge loss. He was looking fantastic before going down, getting open at will, separating everything that was advertised. Looked like he was ready to make a huge second-year leap. And, the loss of him is going to be just massive for that offense. It was very unfortunate to see.
It's one of those things where when you look at it, and we really try to educate people at home and say, listen, be very careful when it's props, maybe a full unit, maybe a half unit. If you're going to do a bunch of props, then take it back, because this is the one thing that can kill a prop is an injury. In the NFL, that's it. Go ahead.
I was just going to back up what you were saying, Coach, especially with season-long props. I always try to emphasize, looking under. There's just so many more ways a season-long prop can end up. And unfortunately, we saw, one of these examples today. There's just a lot more ways it can go under than over. And injuries, obviously, the nature of football, it's so violent that, we saw firsthand how quickly you can lose a season-long future today.
You're damn right about that. Now, we had a couple plays earlier, Zach, on the show on Christian McCaffrey, and he had a really big day. And we were talking earlier this week that if he can stay healthy with a 17-game schedule, he could get to that 400 touch mark, which is always elusive. It has only been done once. It was him since LaDainian Tomlinson back in 2006. He got off to a really good start today, and the Panthers covered. They were 3.5-point favorites. They win by 5. What did you make of McCaffrey's performance today?
Well, I think that's exactly what Carolina wants to do. Run your offense through them. Against a team like the Jets, you don't want to take too much risks. That's exactly what they did. Even though the Jets threatened at the end, threatened in the second half, there was really no worries with the way McCaffrey was handling things.
Real quick update. The Chiefs just got another first down. Mahomes to Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill having a monster day, nearly 200 yards receiving in that long 75-yard touchdown in the fourth quarter right after the Browns had scored. They get the ball right back. They're up by 4. Now, from our world, they're laying 5.5, Mikey, and there's 3:50 to go. They're at midfield. We need about 15, 20 yards and a stop. Or do we just want to win the game as fans? But as bettors, we want a field goal here.
Yeah, you definitely want a field goal. Frankly, you want him to score a touchdown here at this point. You want one of those guys to get loose behind the secondary or crossing the middle. You want him to score. But, it's a big sweat if you got the spread. Or Travis Kelce. I believe he's about 6 yards short on
that prop from this morning. Where's he at right now? Where's he at right now? It was at 89 that we gave out this morning, and right now he's at 76. So he needs 13 more yards. Tyreek Hill 11 for 197. So all of his props went well over the total. No doubt about that. So they're at the 50-yard line, 33-29. It's been an insane second half comeback. They've outscored the Cleveland Browns 33-7. And when you have these type of comebacks, Alex, from a prop standpoint, it can really throw it into a tizzy because you go, wait a second, this one went way over, but it's the way the game played out. How much do you look into that when you're kind of handicapping going into week 2?
Yeah, certainly, Coach. I try to just, I kind of factor in as much data as I can, and that definitely plays a factor as far as when I'm looking into week 2. But yeah, obviously the Chiefs are super explosive offense. They can put up points and as fast as any team, and yeah, they can just blink of an eye. Next thing you know, it could be late in the third quarter. Kelce could be held under, and then just one catch or one drive, and next thing you know, he's gone over. So.
Keep the questions coming. We like to make these live streams as interactive as we can. We answered a bunch of questions this morning. If you have any questions, put them in the comment section. We'll get to as many as we can. Now, Jeremy says the x-rays were negative for Judy. I've been busy getting ready for the show. I didn't know that. Looked a lot worse. So hopefully for his sake and less important for our future's sake, he will be healthy and will be able to continue to play. But anytime somebody is carted off, that is always a bad look. When they're carted off. So hopefully he's okay. Let's move on to another game. The Texans, they were underdogs at home to the Jags. And we talked about it this morning on the show, Mikey, that the Texans have a legitimate quarterback, and to have them favored at home against the Jags, who are horrible, was just the wrong number, and it proved out today. They win by 16.
Yeah, no, that was an absolute gift of a line there at 3.5. Also, we hit the over with several of us on that one. Just awful defense there and leading to some short fields. Trevor Lawrence, I believe, ended up with 3 interceptions in his first start here. Really, frankly, to be expected. Obviously, if you follow closely, Urban Meyer didn't seem to be terribly prepared for this. And it's a rookie quarterback making his debut on the road, right? It's a difficult thing to do in the NFL. Look at the Jets today. They almost backdoor covered. It took them a long time to get going. They really struggled. There's a reason why we see and we're like, man, this quarterback sucks. This quarterback sucks. But we never seem to be able to replace them because it's very difficult to do. Playing quarterback in the NFL is not easy at all. Welcome to reality. Trevor Lawrence got a little dose of that today, as did Urban Meyer.
What did you make of that game today, Zach? Because the Texans looked, I know it's 2 bad teams, but 37 points. And they dominated from start to finish. The way they covered and won by 16 really surprised me.
Yeah, when you have a small line like that, divisional matchups, you really don't know which way it's going to go. But for the Jaguars, you would have liked to see Carlos Hyde and James Robinson last year. He was phenomenal. Just couldn't get going today, and that's just too much pressure to put on your rookie quarterback and Trevor Lawrence. And Tyrod Taylor, you may hate him, but he is a winner early in the season when he gets these starts. He did it with Cleveland. He did it with the Chargers. And now he did it today. Yeah, I think he's 4-0 or 5-0 ATS in those early season starts.
There's a reason some of these backup quarterbacks get $6, $7, $8 million a year because they can play. And if you don't have 2 quarterbacks now in the NFL, you're foolish. You're absolutely foolish if you don't have 2 quarterbacks in the NFL. By the way, speaking of quarterbacks, the Packers game is now over, and I can't wait to see the numbers in this game. 38-3. It just goes final. How about this, Alex? All the Aaron Rodgers props, they ain't hitting today. 15-28, $133, 0 touchdowns. And Alex, he threw his first red zone interception since 2019 today. All the way across the board for all the guys we talked about on the shows this week. They did nothing for the Packers. Nothing.
Yeah, of everything that happened in week one, I would have to say that was the biggest surprise to me was Aaron Rodgers' performance. Fortunately, we hit the over. I wasn't expecting the game to go that way. Excuse me, we hit the under on his 39.5 pass attempt, so that was great to see. Considering they were down big in the first half, I was a little nervous, but yeah, then when he got benched in the fourth quarter, that was definitely nice. But that was just a huge shock. I don't want to overreact. It's just week one. I have no doubt that the Packers are going to eventually figure it out and play a lot better. But yeah, I think the Saints are for real. Their run game was as advertised, and the defense was very active, looked very good. I think the Saints are a legitimate team that's going to flirt with double-digit wins and be very solid.
Let's kick it back to you, Mikey, because you brought up a good question at the top of the show, because this was the worst-case scenario for Aaron Rodgers today, because he didn't do any OTAs. He was not in Green Bay at all. He was playing golf everywhere. He was dating a new woman. They get engaged, and the love of his life. It was everything but football. Then they redid his deal, so next year he can go and do whatever he wants to do, and then he lays maybe the worst egg of his career. Could it have been a worse look for Aaron Rodgers today?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the only way it could have been worse is if the game was played at Lambeau, right? That's the only way it could have been worse, or if it had been a primetime game and everyone was watching. But other than that, yeah, it was absolutely miserable. We'll see if he gets to bounce back. I believe they're on Monday Night Football primetime game at home against the Lions. I believe that is their next game. Correct.
Lions at the Packers, yes.
All eyes on there. If he does not put up an absolute, I'm not going to say a career-defining moment, but if he doesn't have 3 touchdowns, 300 yards, and they win the game and cover the spread, you definitely start to hit the panic button there. If he can't slice up that Lions defense at home in primetime. So we'll have the answer to some of these questions relatively quickly, basically a week from now on Monday Night Football, but it was not good. It was not pretty today. And Chief doesn't like it either, apparently.
Chief's not happy either. They weren't even a dog today. They were the favorites at home. We do have a question in the comments. Keep them coming. We're going to go. Let's go to you, Alex, on this one. Jeremy wants to know for tonight's game, how do we feel on Higbee over 4.5 receptions? I found it at plus 115.
We like this. I don't want to spoil a prop that I'm going to give you guys, but yeah, I'm on Higbee over 3.5. So yeah, I like him at over 4.5. I can kind of get into it a little bit, but so we're going to be without Gerald Everett, who is now the starting tight end, who had a nice game for the Seahawks today. Last year, they combined for 120 targets between them. So I'm expecting a large target share for Higbee. There's no other tight ends to compete for targets. Besides Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, there's really not a lot of receiver or tight end depth as well. So yeah, I'm all in on Higbee. I think he's going to have a really big performance tonight.
By the way, the number is all the way up to 9 now. So just like the Lions earlier today, Zach, this number is at 9. And I know Emery liked it at 7.5, but at plus 9? I mean, is Andy Dalton really that bad?
Well, I think I'll talk when we give out our picks, but I think it's exactly what we saw on the prime time on Thursday. The same line movement. And
okay.
You got to love value here. But I do have a comment on the Green Bay because I've been following Aaron Rodgers. One of my favorite. I've been coming to Vegas since 2007. One of my favorite players to follow. With him, this is a little bit of an okie doke. You think back to last year, New Orleans primetime Sunday Night Football. They were -3, -3.5 against that Green Bay team, and Aaron Rodgers comes out and wins. You think going to a neutral site, Drew Brees is gone, Jameis Winston getting his first start with the Saints. You would think it wouldn't happen like that, but I would not panic. Aaron Rodgers has had that famous press conference of "Don't panic" here. He's had games like this. He had one last year against Tampa Bay. He had 3-4 game stretch almost every year with Mike McCarthy where he played just horrible. And again against the Arizona Cardinals. Similar game. He always has games like this. He's going to bounce back. Too much talent. They need to figure out that tandem backfield, I think, first with A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. They need to figure that out. But he has Randall Cobb back. That's going to pay dividends sooner or later. And, of course, Devontae Adams, he's not going to be held in check like he was today.
I think you're right about that. And I think that's exactly what we're going to see from Aaron Rodgers this week. identical to Zach, what you just said. Now, we got two finals that just came in as we were talking, and the Kansas City Chiefs, the defense that couldn't do anything in the first half, allowed 22 first-half points, have just stopped Baker Mayfield, intercepting him inside the 45 on their own side of the field. So the Chiefs are going to pull this one out in week 1. And for all those teams that are like, man, we're going to get the Chiefs away from Arrowhead, this was a game the Browns needed to finish. And now Patrick Mahomes, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, they get the job done. Let's talk about this for a second. This is the team, Mike. I'll start with you, then we'll go right around the horn. I want to hear everybody's thoughts on this. Mahomes did it in the second half, 23 second-half points, and the defense got it done. Your thoughts on the Chiefs winning the marquee matchup of the week so far?
No, it's a big win for them. It's frankly, the betting market was right on. There's a lot of love for Cleveland there, and Cleveland was the better team for, half of the game, but these teams are going to be battling it out. It's an AFC preview for sure. So definitely unfortunate if you had Kansas City against the spread, unless you had them on an alt line at -4. I think the only thing you can really point to there was Kansas City being ultra conservative in the first half, kicking that field goal on 4th and 2, at a time when they should have went for it. The math would tell you to go for it every time in that matchup. It's something to watch and to monitor going forward. Typically, we would expect them to be somewhat neutral and maybe a little on the cutting edge as far as analytics and going for it in those decisions. Certainly not as on the cutting edge as the Cleveland Browns, but that's likely why they did not cover the spread today, is electing to take 3 instead of the 7 there.
No doubt about it. Your thoughts there, Zach?
This Cleveland team, I just wish, if this was old school football, I think they'd be a better team. They do not run Nick Chubb enough. I think he's an elite running back. I think he can handle 20, 25 carries. And this is just one of those games again. If he reached that mark, they probably would have won this game.
Boy, Baker Mayfield looks furious on the field right now. You got to do that whole, go over to Patrick Mahomes and do the whole handshake. He looks so angry right now. I know you had a prop in this game, Alex, today, and they didn't start running your guy until the second half. He had 43 yards, but in the first half, they didn't run the ball at all.
Yeah, I think he had 5 yards at the half. Pretty disappointing. Obviously, he got going a little bit in the second half. This will be one I'll likely, I have to look at the number, but it'll be one I'll probably take a pretty good look at next week. If we get a similar number or lower, good chance I'm going to go with it again. Disappointed that they didn't get going in the first half. No lead is safe when you're playing the Chiefs. It's pretty unbelievable. The Browns didn't have Odell Beckham Jr. I think the Browns have, obviously they lost the game, but I know there's no such thing as a moral victory, but they were hanging, they were tough, they were playing well. I'm still very high on the Browns. I expected the Chiefs to win this game, not necessarily in this fashion exactly, but I still think the Browns are going to have a great season.
I want to point this out because we talk all the time on this show, and it's all about education, because we also tell you we're going to lose. We're going to lose bets, but we use the information. And, Mikey, what do you tell me all the time? If we have a number, and the 5.5 or 6 number, I didn't really like it. What do you always tell us? If you want to bring the number down, what do you wait for?
You wait for a live play. So in this spot, what you probably did and what a lot of bettors probably did out there, if you weren't comfortable with that number, you watched Cleveland march down the field, take that 8-0 lead. You grab that live number -3.5, and you're cashing you're cashing a -3.5 ticket right now.
Thank you.
So I actually did the same. I got it at -4, unfortunately, and ended up pushing. But in one of these, it's you push that back. I'll gladly take a push there.
I actually got it at 2.5. So I actually got the win, but I did it because I listened to you, because you're always educating us about live betting, and that's a better way to get a number. You're not always going to be able to get that number, but if it starts the game that way, then you can get that number, and a lot of people surely did today. Now, some numbers, if people played props on Baker Mayfield, certainly that went over. Yards, 321, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception, and then Mahomes on the other side. How about this, guys? 27 to 36. 337, 3 touchdowns, 0 INTs. If you were going to have a start to the season individually for him, you couldn't have a better start than this. But what do you think this start, Alex, will do to his props moving forward?
Yeah, they're going to be jacked up. He also ran one in, I believe, as well, Coach. I think he had 4 total touchdowns. But, yeah. I mean, the Chiefs are every week you're going to look at them. Their player props are going to be some of the highest numbers across the board. They maintain high hit rates too. They're super consistent. They're just the most explosive offense in the NFL, and they're going to continue to just score a ton of points and rack up the yards. So,
Faustino in the comments section. We don't talk about this a lot, but I feel like everybody should know this. He says, I wish I could live bet. I hate California sometimes. Faustino, I live in California. I live bet the game. Wink, wink. Figure it out. There are ways to play every game, every bet, all the time. There you go. All right, let's move on to another late game that just got done. And how about those pesky Miami Dolphins going on the road, getting it done? Tua time, 17-16. Now, he was not great, 16-27, 202, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Mac Jones on the other side, 29 of 39, 281, 1 score, and an INT. But when they needed to punch it in, they couldn't do it. And then when they needed to get a field goal at the end of the game, the Dolphins defense stood strong. What do we make of Mac Jones and Tua today? Alex, we'll start with you, and then let's just piggyback all the way around.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Mac Jones. I thought he looked really poised in the pocket. He looked like a veteran. He didn't really look like a rookie to me. He looked comfortable. He was very accurate. Bill Belichick obviously put him in a position to succeed. A lot of short depth of target throws. Yeah, he looked really good to me. I thought Damian Harris played really well. Very high on him for the remainder of the season. Tua was solid, if not spectacular. I thought it was a solid performance all around. Both defenses were good. And I think both quarterbacks are definitely going to have a solid season.
We will keep our eyes on them. Zach, what did you think about the Dolphins going on the road to Foxborough and getting the job done?
Well, it kind of makes me question Bill Belichick's decision to get rid of Cam Newton. You go back to last year, this was the same matchup week 1 at Foxborough. Patriots were -6.5. They won that game because Newton controlled the pace. He had the rushes. I think you look at their rushes today, they ran the ball 30 times. If they had Cam Newton, they probably would have ran it 45 times. And Damian Harris, maybe a little bit too many carries, fumbled inside the 10-yard line when they were about to get a cover and win late in the game.
I'm getting so many text messages, Mikey, I'm sure you are too, from all my Chiefs buddies. They're like, what a game, way to go. I'm like, I'm live on the air right now. So I'll get back to you in a second. Your thoughts on Tua. What a huge road win in division for the Dolphins.
Yeah, it's a big win. Not often you look at both teams and like both quarterbacks and think that, there's a lot to be optimistic about, but I think that this is the case. I think there's a lot to be optimistic on both sides, especially in the Dolphins side too, when they get fuller and they get a little more healthy, get a little more reps there. I think that he's actually got some weapons. You have Waddle, Parker, and Will Fuller. I mean, that's a pretty good receiving core if you've got time in the pocket to throw. He's obviously mobile enough to make it happen, so a lot to be optimistic there. And then Mac Jones, I mean, he distributed the ball. He spread it out to a number of receivers. If Harris can run, 23 times, maybe a little much. If you can drop that number to 18, 19 and still get close to 100 yards like that, I mean, I think that this team is not far off. I think you saw 2 teams that are definitely on the way up.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you a lot. So we've hit on all the late games except for the Broncos, guys. And we have a couple people in the chat. They're like, man, the Broncos are sneaky good. That game just went final as well, 27-13. The Broncos go on the road. Teddy Bridgewater had an incredible record, guys. On the road, week 1. I mean, everything said, play the Broncos. And every number backed it up. He was 28 of 36, 264, 2 scores, no interceptions. He held on to the football. How about Gordon? 11 carries for a $101. Alex, that's an incredible day for him, averaging basically 10 yards a rush.
Yeah, he hasn't done that for a while, so that definitely surprised me. He's been somewhat of a plotter for the last few years. Yeah, so that was definitely something that I don't expect him to replicate very often. Obviously you're happy to see it if you're one of those 0 RB drafters and you were starting Melvin Gordon this weekend in fantasy. But yeah, I don't expect Melvin Gordon to put up many 100-yard performances when he's only getting 11 touches. But yeah, Teddy Bridgewater was hyper efficient, very Teddy Bridgewater-esque game. Spread the ball around, very accurate, high completion percentage. And yeah, hopefully Jerry Jeudy's not lost for the season, because if he comes back, they could be a pretty viable offense.
He was having a really good game before he was carted off. 6 catches, 72 yards. I mean, and when you look at other guys like Fant, Hamler, Patrick, I mean, these are names nobody knows. You got to have Jeudy on this team if they want to do anything when you're playing in the same division with the Chargers, who won today. We'll get to that game in a second. And, of course, the Chiefs, who just pulled off that big win over the Browns at home. You got to have your best players have any shot of getting out of the division and even in a wild card spot. So Judy's going to be really, really important. Anybody else have a thought on the Broncos and the Giants before we get back to another shocker from earlier in the day? Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, just efficiency from Teddy Bridgewater. That's what we see time and time again. I'm surprised we continue to see these small numbers, but 2 drives where they had 8 minutes or plus they ran on the clock. That just seals the deal when you got a quarterback like Daniel Jones that lacks confidence, knows he doesn't have Saquon Barkley at full strength, and they just took advantage of everything today.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Good take there. It is 7:38 on the East Coast, 4:38 out here in the Pacific time zone. We're about 37 minutes away from kick of the Rams and hosting the Bears. We'll get to those picks in about 10 or 15 minutes, but still plenty more to get to from earlier today. And Mikey, I want to go to you because the Titans were a team that many people were very, very high on. We were talking the over. That didn't hit today. Somehow it didn't hit. They only managed to get to 51. They lose by 25, and Kyler Murray, he was the story. A career-high 4 passing touchdowns, only 1 interception. Like Patrick Mahomes, also rushed for a touchdown. What did you make of the Cardinals also hitting that team total that was part of the gem on the show earlier today, over 25.5 points?
Yeah, the Cardinals, I mean, you know, the saying the rich get richer. They got richer with Rondale Moore out there. He's going to be absolutely electric for that team. Fortunately, we cashed that prop early, but they're going to use him a number of ways. As you saw, he got some handoffs as well. That's going to open things up tremendously. They're using both backs, but they're using Chase Edmonds properly. I absolutely loved what I saw from the Arizona Cardinals. I think they're very, very good, and I think they're going to make a lot of noise this year as long as they all stay healthy.
Boy, if they could just get out of the way, and you're right, keep Kyler Murray healthy. From what you saw today, Alex, from a prop standpoint, if he's going to throw the ball like this and be really, really smart, are you going to get re-engaged very quickly with Kyler Murray and keep an eye on what he's doing?
Yeah, I agree with everything Mike said. There is a lot to like in that offense. Rondale Moore offers a very electric, explosive weapon who can really open things up all over the field. We just got a little glimpse of him. He was fantastic. I think I agree the Cardinals are legit. They're going to be really solid this year. Defensively, they played really well too, which, you know, not many people are talking about right now as well. The pass rush was good. And then on the other side, Tennessee, that was maybe one of the worst performances I've seen Ryan Tannehill since he joined the Titans. Derrick Henry looked sluggish as well. You know, we were expecting big things out of the A.J. Brown, Julio Jones tandem. They didn't look as advertised. I mean, obviously, it's just 1 week. You don't want to overreact. But, yeah, I was also surprised that we didn't see a much more explosive Tennessee offense. So I'm going to be looking very carefully how they perform next week. And, I'm interested to see if this was a one-off or, you know, they're not the same offense they have been.
Zach, there are a lot of suicide pools, survivor pools, whatever you want to call them, including mine, that are blown up after week 1. And I talked about it all week. I said there was only a couple of games I even felt like I could play. And that was Tennessee and that was Washington. And they both lose at home. Now, John Jones, the famous UFC fighter, he just tweeted earlier, 5 sacks. That's all he wrote, 5 sacks. Well, we knew what that meant. His brother went bananas and had 5 sacks. Chandler Jones for the Cardinals. Taylor Lewin, Zach, went on social media and thanked Chandler Jones for making him look bad because he said it's going to make me better. I kind of like that a lot. I like that a lot. Your thoughts on Arizona and Chandler Jones, who we know wants to get paid. You play like this, 5 sacks in 1 game. Your thoughts?
Yeah, most definitely. He didn't report for a couple of days before he decided to report. He's definitely going to get his money, whether it's from Arizona or somebody else, sooner or later. But this Titans team, it was in my write-up on SportsLine. They started so many games slow last year. They got away with it early on in the year. But at the end of the year. They went 6-5, didn't look the same. And I think it's carried over to this season. And then the Arizona Cardinals, so much talent on both sides of the football. They just got out the gate early. And I think you commend defensive coordinator Vance Joseph. He had that defense ready, that early play to get Ryan Tannehill's strip sack fumble. Should have been a touchdown, but it was on the one inch yard line. That set the tone for the game, and Tennessee could never recover.
All right, very good. We got a few more games to get to as we're about 18 minutes from the top of the hour. We'll be going to right around 8:15. We're going to stop about 5 minutes early because we realized on the show earlier today when we give out plays, you got to have time to put them in, including us. We got to play our own plays. Quickly, there is a question in the comments section. Stafford 300-plus yards and a Rams win. Do we think, Alex, that Matthew Stafford on a game like this against the Bears can get to 300 yards?
I do. I think McVay is going to show off his new toy. I think Stafford's going to throw the ball a lot. I'm also not a big believer in the Rams rushing attack. So, yeah, I think that's very possible. I think it's solid.
Mikey?
I definitely think he can. I think you're going to need the game to be a little bit more competitive than what the consensus is for him to get to that number. So my median number on it is 287. Which is still quite high, frankly, for where the model is on it, because I do agree they are going to throw it around. But getting to that 300, I do think it's going to require, 2 touchdowns or 14 points out of the Chicago Bears for that to happen. So if you think that that's going to happen, if you think the game's going to be, at least remotely competitive, then I think it's fine to go ahead and get there. As always, thoughts on Stafford 300 yards and Rams to win. It depends on the price. Is it saying 3-1? Is that what he's saying there? If that's the case, so that's the real issue for me. I need to know the actual price on it. If it's even money, no. But if it's 3-1 or whatever offering at the sports book, probably a lot more interest in it.
Danny Hall over in the comments section wrote, I think this shows that the preseason matters. And I know that you tweeted out today, Mikey, a lot of sloppy play. I was actually thinking the same thing, that this is a double-edged sword, that these teams, they don't want the preseason games. Some teams didn't even play their starters in the preseason, and I think it showed today. I think it really showed today. So what's the answer, Zach, to not playing your starters in the preseason? Do you just sacrifice week 1 like the Packers did? Do you sacrifice week 1 like a lot of other teams did and look bad today? What do you do?
Well, I think it's the preseason is what it is nowadays. I just think you're just going to have off lines in week 1, and the odds makers are going to adjust. But preseason necessarily, I don't think it's been like this for the last 4 or 5 years. There was a time, though, I think it was 2016 or 2017, that year it was really, really bad start for the NFL. But from what I'm seeing from the product, it's changed over exponentially the last few years. So I'm not mad at players sitting out preseason at all.
Okay, very good. All right, the other game I mentioned as far as survivor pools are concerned, and I'm sure I'm not the only one, Washington losing 20-16. Justin Herbert, 31 of 47, 337, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. And we talked about on the mega preview that Ryan Fitzpatrick starting for his record 9th NFL team. However, he has not started an entire season since 2015. And guess what? He gets knocked out of the game again today. Doesn't even make it 1 full game for Washington. So they've got a lot of answers, Alex. If they're not going to have Fitzmagic, who was supposed to be their starter for the entire season, what do you do now?
Yeah, I think you turn to Antonio Gibson. I liked what I saw out of him. I think he's one of the best second-year running backs in the league. Washington's in trouble without Fitzmagic. But at the same time, I didn't think Heineke played terribly. I think it's going to do we have a report on the severity of his injury? Do we know?
It's a hip. That's all we know.
It's questionable to come back, so maybe
okay.
It's a game or 2.
Yeah, so hopefully he's not gone long, but I'm really excited to see the offense with him in it. They look kind of flat to start the game, but
Mikey, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to take a lot away from it. We really need to have that injury report. By Tuesday, I think we'll have a little better idea of what it's going to look like going forward. But they might have to sign Cam Newton. They might look at something like that. To be honest, I don't hate it. We'll see. Heineke is one of those. It's kind of Heineke. I think he's a lot like Andy Dalton tonight, right? I think they're serviceable for a week or two at a time, especially early in the year when they haven't been getting the crap beat out of them for 6 weeks. When they're trying to play a little longer. So that's why I have a little interest in Andy Dalton and DFS tonight, just a tiny bit. But I think that this game could be a little more competitive tonight. And I think that the reason why we didn't see Washington fall off quite so much is Heineke was healthy. He felt good. He hadn't taken any hits yet. Wasn't thrown into a situation where everyone else on the team was already beat up. The offensive line, everyone's already beat up, right? So I think that is something that is probably understated a little bit with some of these quarterbacks stepping in so quickly in the season.
Zach, it seems like Cam's the only established starter as far as name value that has played recently that they could go out and get if they have to. Do you like Cam Newton? We figured he'd play at some point this season, and he's been smart just to stay out and see what happens in the landscape. Would this be a good landing spot for Cam in Washington?
Well, Ron Rivera was his old coach, but we know how Carolina turned things away from him. So I'm not too sure Cam would go back there. But you never know. Just to get him back out there, maybe it happens. But they also have Kyle Allen, who was groomed with Carolina with Ron Rivera and played a little bit last year. So if Taylor Heineke has to play and doesn't play well, we could see Allen once again. But this was Justin Herbert today made pretty much the best accurate throws I saw from any quarterback. He was just throwing dimes all over the field, and still it looked like they were going to have another meltdown like they did last year with the late interception, but the defense stepped up. We saw that so many times last year where Justin Herbert had the game won and the defense let him down against Denver, against the Raiders, but the defense stepped up. They got the fumble from Gibson, gave them the easy route to get that touchdown.
All right, and next week the Chargers are home at SoFi to take on your Dallas Cowboys, coming off that heartbreak in Tampa last week. Speaking of heartbreak, guys, and we're going to get to our Bears-Rams picks in about 10 minutes at the top of the hour for all of you wondering where they're at. We're going to get to those. The Minnesota Vikings, they were getting beat the entire game. They kick a field goal as time is running out to tie the game at 24, and I can only imagine Mike Zimmer's head right now as we speak. He was mad before the game, and then to lose this way late in the overtime after all the mistakes. Mikey, how mad is Mike Zimmer? The Vikings were laying 3, and another dog gets it done.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's not happy, and I'm sure it's not happy, happening to Burrow, and that there was a lot of talk about that. But I will say that, Burrow and that team, they're better than people think they are, which is evident by that spread. Everyone loved Minnesota -3 because they couldn't believe they're -3. And that the Bengals team, when Burrow is healthy, they're not bad at all. They've got absolutely legit weapons with those 3 receivers in the backfield, and they're not a bad team at all. And we're not used to seeing that out of them. But if you looked at Burrow before he got hurt in the previous season, he had so many great games in the first 5 of the first 8 weeks. He was absolutely incredible, and you could see the writing on the wall there. So I don't think, it sucks for them. It's a bad loss in theory, but, they lost to a decent team, a team on the way up on the road. So,
And we know last year it was just a freak injury. It was a serious injury, but it was a freak injury. And Joe Burrow came out this week and said, listen, I'm excited to show everybody what I've been working on in the offseason. I'm really confident at the work I put in. Well, we saw that today. How about 20 of 27, 261, 2 scores, no interceptions? I'm saying if you give him this line every single game this year, they're 12-4 or 12-5. Sorry, you know what I'm saying? This is a game he'll take anytime. Then on the flip side, you got Kirk Cousins. He had to throw for 351 because they were behind by 14 for most of the game. When you look at the numbers and how things went for the Bengals, Alex, who's a guy that you might be looking at going into week 2, perhaps?
Yeah, so I was impressed with the Bengals. A lot of players on the Bengals. For starters, Burrow had a great game. It was great to see them get off to a 1-0 start. Joe Mixon was phenomenal. A lot of people have been kind of sleeping on him. I thought Joe Mixon performed really well. He got better as the game went on. But yeah, I guess the biggest surprise for me was Jamar Chase. He had a bad off season. He had struggled in the preseason, and yeah, he looked awesome in week 1. Looked like he had a lot of chemistry with his former college teammate. And yeah, I was really, really encouraged by Jamar Chase. I'm going to be looking forward to seeing if he can continue to replicate the success he had today.
Very good. Quick question in the comments from KC next. We were talking about live betting. Mikey, I'll take it to you on this one. And then, Zach, you can piggyback. Is there a certain number we should look for when live betting this game tonight?
I guess the question you have to ask yourself is which team are you interested in? Obviously, there'll be a price point on each where you're interested. I'm guessing that you're not comfortable laying the -9 or whatever it's up to with the Rams. I mean, you're going to want to try to, in an in-game play, you're going to want to get that under a touchdown or at least under 8. So maybe 7.5, I think would be a good number if you could get that there. But I'm assuming that that's the side that you're looking to bet. If you're looking to bet the other side, then I think your best bet is to hope that they go down 7-0 early, like real early in this game on that first drive. And you might be able to get a lot better number there. But I would caution and at least wait and try and watch one series from Andy Dalton and the Bears and see what that looks like. See if there's anything that, have some sort of bad luck on the drive or a drive that stalls that doesn't end in points, but they move the football. Then I think it's okay to fire there at that. But overall, you got to ask yourself, obviously, which side are you trying to bet? If it's the Bears side and you like them and you get a number 6.5 or better, I think that you can fire away on that anytime in the first quarter.
And then for me, if you like the Bears, you could wait if they get down 10-0 or anything double-digit wise and take another shot on them. And then with a team that's favored as high as the Rams are, I don't recommend going in-game on them. I think your best price point is going to be halftime, because I see it all the time where a heavily favored, it's going to be inflated in-game, especially playing at home. They didn't have fans last year, so this is their true first home game. I think the Rams price is going to be inflated most of this game.
All right, we're about 20 minutes away from kick, so I think I want to start doing the Bears-Rams now. And we only have one game left that we haven't hit, so let's hit that game, and then we'll do the Bears. So I think it'll be perfect top of the hour. So Eagles-Falcons, the only game we haven't talked about, and it's the hardest thing for a team to do is let go of a franchise quarterback. After what we saw today, Alex, let me start with you. Is Matty Ice just done? They look horrendous today.
They did, Coach, but I did tell everyone this morning not to sleep on my Eagles defense, that they had gotten better in the offseason. We saw it. The secondary looked really good. But, yeah, I think Matt Ryan is unfortunately at the point where he's, I don't necessarily know if he's going to fall off a cliff, but I think we're witnessing a decline from him. I think his best football is behind him. I think the loss of Julio from that offense, really makes things difficult. Kyle Pitts flashed, but he's going to have his rookie lumps and struggle at times. And who's going to be the second or third receiving option? One of my calls was Russell Gage under. I think he had one target. He had 0 receptions, 0 yards. So, I think combination of a very feisty, underrated Eagles defense and just the Falcons not having a lot of weapons and not having a lot of guys who can create mismatches on their offense. So,
Kyle Pitts, 4 catches, 31 yards today. I saw somebody tweet at you, and I thought it was hilarious. It said, prop stars hitting overs on dudes we've never even heard of before. Those are the type of things that if you watch our shows during the week, you get a lot of great numbers and great information. And who cares if we've never heard of them? We played them. And it cash. And sometimes those under numbers are incredible that you're pulling out of the woodwork. Zach, when you look at the Eagles side of things today, Jalen Hurts, I tell you what, he played solid. 264 in the air, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Sanders, 74 yards on the ground. The Eagles, 32 points, and the defense, as Alex said, was fantastic. How surprised were you at a 26-point road win over the Atlanta Falcons?
Well, it's definitely shocking because it looks like they can play even better football because Miles Sanders, he didn't get enough carries and he was averaging like 7-8 yards a pop. Smith, the rookie, played great. And they just got him comfortable early. Jalen Hurts comfortable early, hit the touchdown the Goddard, and Atlanta just had nothing to show. I don't know what was going on with Matt Ryan. We've seen it for the last 2 or 3 years. It kind of reminds me of Matt Schaub when Andre Johnson and Arian Foster started going towards the end of their careers. Julio Jones is gone. Devontae Freeman's been gone for years, and they just don't have that talent. I won't blame it entirely on Matt Ryan, but at his age, he needs better talent, even at home.
Yeah, you got a new head coach too, Mikey. And when you got a new head coach and you got, you're sticking to your guns to a $20 million starting quarterback, that just sometimes, and we see this all the time in sports, when you're so dedicated to a player, you give them a contract, they get stuck. And you're like, well, if I let him go, then what am I going to do? Because I'm going to be stuck with a huge cap number. What did you make of this game today?
Yeah, I mean, they miss Julio Jones a lot. Has an impact on Calvin Ridley and the combination of Ridley and Matt Ryan, but just Julio's presence on the field was a massive deal for them. And frankly, they're going to be in trouble for a while because their offense in terms of pass catching, I mean, right now you got to shut down Ridley, and then you have to shut down Kyle Pitts and Hayden Hurst, and then maybe try to contain Mike Davis out of the backfield. It's not good for the Atlanta Falcons. If Calvin Ridley doesn't, if he's not that superstar, and look, it's one game, maybe he had a bad game, maybe they can be fine. But Philly was great. Jalen Hurts was absolutely fantastic. He's obviously got those weapons as well. One of the weapons obviously being his legs. If he can run for 60 yards and just the amount of pressure that takes off of him throwing the football, huge, absolutely huge. And then they're gonna have days where they can lean on Miles Sanders a little bit. I think this team is dangerous as long as they're healthy and nothing happens to Jalen Hurts. They got Rager and Smith. Like they've got weapons. They're not quite as good as the Arizona Cardinals, but they're a very similar team. Sneaky on defense, a number of weapons on offense, a quarterback that can put up the best numbers in the league on any given day. So, yeah, look out for them.
And just like last year, Dallas, Giants, Washington all lose because the NFC East just can't get started out of the block. So the Eagles all alone in first place after week one. On the flip side, when you look at the results from the NFC South, Bucks win. We know how good they're going to be. Saints looked remarkably good today, and Carolina won. So if you're the Falcons, you're already behind the 8 balls. You're in dead last all by yourself after week one. Just the way the ball bounces sometimes. All right, we are hitting the top of the hour. It's 8 o'clock on the East Coast, 5 Pacific time. We're just about 15 minutes away from the start of Sunday Night Football. The Bears playing about 50 miles from where I'm sitting right now, SoFi Stadium, out here in Southern California. You're still going to see the sun out when it starts tonight on Sunday Night Football. So, guys, we got to talk about what we like on the game tonight. So as far as the side is concerned, Mikey, let's start with you. It's up to 9 now, and the total right around 46. What do you like in this game? I think he is muted for a second. Can we unmute Mikey?
Sorry, I had to pull a Jay Smooth every once in a while. I'm trying to keep Keith out of here. So, no. If I had to play this game, it would be the under. That's the biggest edge in the model here. I've got about 2.5 points of edge. My number on the game is 8. In theory, getting to 9, obviously getting to 10 would be a more significant number to the point where I think about playing it. I saw some, I guess I can build it here on here. I don't do them often, and I never bet a teaser in college football, but there are times in the NFL that calls for it. And I think this is one of them here with the Bears, or with the Rams. You can get this number down under 3, and then you can tease that total up into the low to mid 50s. And I think that's going to be probably the strongest play in this game. I can't quite get there. I need 9.5 to 10. Really need 10 to feel comfortable playing the Bears. But if you made me make a play right now, it would be on the under, as I have this one at about 50 or 44.2.
Yeah, I got it at 46 about 3 days ago when we gave it out on the Mega Preview. That was one of the plays we really liked last Tuesday. And if you watch our show every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern time, we give out a lot of lines that when they come out that we think are wrong. And we loved the under 5 days ago, and Mikey clearly loves the number right now. Zach, what do you like on the game tonight?
Well, first I want to preface, I don't love this play. It wasn't one of my top 5 plays for the NFL weekend, but I would side with the Bears based on the line movement. We talked about all these games today. The majority of them, the line movement was wrong. I think this will be the case here. And it just goes back to that.
Second, this is real quick. So I'm literally got my iPad going, and look who can't help himself. Y'all see
haircut.
Oh, he's in a suit, and the maestro looking good on CBS Sports HQ. Little haircut, you're right. My apologies, Zach. I just had to show everybody our guy. Please continue. My apologies.
Well, and I think the focus is going to be on Andy Dalton and Matthew Stafford here. But for me, the talent on both of these teams. This is the 4th straight year that they faced each other. So the familiarity really is with the players that have been there. And there's so many on both sides of the football. This is the 3rd Sunday night football game they've played in the past 4 years. And the scores of those games have been 15-6, 17-7, and 24-10 last year. So I'll take the points here. I don't think Sean McVay's going to try to do too much. And Matt Nagy definitely isn't. He's going to try to check that ball with Andy Dalton. I just have to take the points. We'll see what happens. But if it gets crazy, like I said, you can do an in-game scenario to offset it with the Rams. But I do like the points.
Oh, my gosh. It's my team, Andy Dalton says. From a prop perspective, I know, Alex, you've got something that you love in this game. Talk to me.
I'm chomping at the bit, Coach. I've got 2 props that I like in this game. Allen Robinson under 5.5 catches. I love Allen Robinson. He's a phenomenal wide receiver, but I don't have a lot of faith in Andy Dalton. I have a lot of confidence in the Rams defense. These teams met last year. Robinson was held to just 4 catches. Last year, the Rams allowed only 10 receivers to catch 6 passes or more, and 4 of them were slot receivers. So, yeah, only 6 outside receivers had at least 6 catches versus the Rams. Their cornerback tandem is incredible. We all know about Jalen Ramsey, but Darius Williams is a very underrated cornerback. I think he's maybe the most underrated cornerback in the league. I think they make the best corner tandem in the league. And, yeah, I think Allen Robinson under 5.5 catches is a great play. The other play I had mentioned earlier was Tyler Higbee over 3.5 catches. He is the starting tight end for the Rams. There is no more Gerald Everett. He is now on the Seattle Seahawks. They combined for 120 targets last year. He ranked 11th in yards per route run and 7th in yards per target. So he was highly productive when he was thrown to. And, yeah, there's not a lot of competitions for targets behind Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. So, yeah, I like Tyler Higbee tonight over 3.5 catches.
I literally just put that play in right now as we speak. Live betting on the early. Yeah, that's exactly what we do here. Get those 2 props in as we are about 10 minutes away from kickoff. I think it's 8:15 or maybe it's 8:20. But we're going to always end about 5 or 10 minutes early so you can get all the plays in. Okay. We only got about 5 minutes left in the show. We've hit every single game very quickly. We're going to have a full hour show on Monday night as we get set for the Ravens and the Raiders. Before we get out of here, we get our final thoughts real quick on the initial Monday night footballs. People are always already starting to look ahead. The last number was 4.5. Mikey, your initial thoughts on tomorrow night?
It's going to be interesting to see what the Ravens look like at running back. Obviously, that's the real story here, and how quickly are any of these guys up to speed and activated, who's going to play. How much Lamar Jackson are we going to see in terms of running the football? How aggressive are they going to be there? Obviously, they didn't want to have to be terribly aggressive early with him. I think that those plans have to be abandoned. I think he's going to run a lot in this game. And then on the other side, I mean, home field advantage. We've talked about it a few times. That place is going to be absolutely rocking and ready to go in Las Vegas to break that thing in. So I think it's going to be a very tough environment for Baltimore. And I think that, the loss of the backfield and then some of the pieces on defense, I think the Ravens could potentially be in trouble here.
I agree. Zach, you're in Vegas. How is the community kind of rallying around the Raiders and having a Monday night game to start the season?
No, they've been ready for the Raiders for years. You've been seeing the license plates, the gear all over the place. But you remember last year it was the same spread, and the Raiders did win. So we'll see what happens in this one. But it goes back to me for the preseason mentality we talked about. Harbaugh is one of the few coaches that has his team entire roster ready to play in the preseason, 15-0, 16-0, whatever it's been. So that could be one of those slight little angles that might have an advantage tomorrow, because it's going to be a tight game no matter what. The spread indicates that. I think it's going to be one of the tighter ones from start to finish in terms of ATS. And I did have 2 player props I did not give out when we went. I thought we were just doing the side initially.
I am sorry. My apologies. Please. Again, I'm a little rusty on the first Sunday night, so my apologies. Go ahead.
That was my fault, but I do like Robert Woods over 63.5 yards. Matthew Stafford, he's going to need a guy to lean on. Woods is one of the best route runners in football, and I think he reminds me a little bit of Golden Tate. He has those Golden Tate routes. He's going to run those short intermediate routes. He can run the deep routes, and he always has one big play a game. That's one thing I noticed in McVay. He will hit him one time and get over 63.5 yards. And Andy Dalton over 33.5 throws. the veteran quarterback, even though he was poor last year with Dallas, he threw the ball a lot in those losses. I don't think they're going to have the run game to stay in this, so they're going to need him to throw to have any chance. We saw Tyrod Taylor have 32 today. I think another veteran steps in with Dalton and goes over the mark.
All right, if you're watching right now on the YouTube channel, not just listen to the audio, we've got the entire recap up right now from Emery earlier in the show, from Prop Stars, my man Alex, and then Zach Attack has 3 plays as well. And then AB, who's also on the 1s and 2s tonight, he's also on that under 46.5 that we gave out earlier in the week. Alex, I want to get your final thoughts, but also we had a question in the comment section that one of the books, they have Higbee at 4.5 catches, but it's plus money. Would you feel comfortable playing that?
Yes, I would. I'd prefer I saw him at minus 125 at 3.5. I'd personally prefer that over 4.5. Just to err a little more cautiously. We don't know exactly, how strong the connection with Stafford's going to be and exactly what his target share will be. I'm expecting it to be sizable, but yeah, I'd prefer the 3.5 until we have a little more data and a little more information to go on before we take the further leap. Regarding my thoughts on tomorrow night's game, the thing I'm most interested in seeing is if this becomes Tyson Williams' backfield. By all accounts, the Ravens are going to give him the first crack at the backfield. His yardage prop hasn't dropped yet, or at least hadn't an hour to us coming on to the show together. So I'm really interested to see what his prop ends up being, and I think he's got a great chance to take a firm hold of that backfield, and he could be a really solid play tomorrow night.
Well, we'll be here for a full hour talking about that game, breaking it all down, and also looking forward as the lines come out for next week already in week 2. All right, 30 seconds from each guy as we are about 7 minutes away. Mike, you start. Just piggyback what you're going to be looking for the most tonight.
I'm going to be looking at the usage on the Rams side for sure, and then the Bears. I'll be looking for live in betting opportunities on both sides of this one based on what I see out of Andy Dalton in the first 2 series of this game. So that's what I'll be looking for. If they look good, they move the ball with any success at all. I'm really interested. Darnell Mooney is someone who's on the injury report, but he's active and going to play. If he doesn't look limited at all, he's someone that I could look at a live player prop on as well. I do tend to agree with Alex. I think the primary focus is clearly they're not going to have to focus on shutting the running backs down. So the focus is going to be shutting Allen Robinson down. The only question is someone going to emerge? It's Mooney or nobody for me.
Zach?
Well, for Matt Nagy, I want to see if he does it again. Anytime he has a quarterback, even in limited action, their first initial starts, they do well. We saw, obviously, with Mitch Trubisky, he did well for some time. He had to have Chase Daniels in there a couple of times. Nick Foles in there a couple of times, had that stretch last year. So in comes Andy Dalton. Nobody wants him to play, but guess what? Nagy wants him to play. So there's a reason there. And then let's see if Sean McVay, he got his upgrade at quarterback. Let's see if that offense is going to be upgraded or tinkers downward.
Alex, bring us home, pal. What are you looking for the most?
Yeah, just to piggyback off what Zach said, I'm most excited to see McVay finally having a quarterback that can throw, further than 10 yards. No offense to Jared Goff, but yeah, I'm excited to see Stafford in this offense paired with an offensive mind like McVay. I think it could really open up things for the Rams offense. I think we could see huge seasons from Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods and Tyler Higbee. And yeah, I'm excited to see what the Rams can do. I'm also interested to see the defense. The defense lost some really good players. Johnson, the safety, he was, I think, PFF's #1 graded safety last year. So yeah, I'm interested to see how the Rams defense does because they're top heavy as far as depth is concerned. They don't have a lot of depth. They have obviously premier players like Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald. But outside of that, they don't have the depth they had last year. So I'm interested to see if the Rams defense is going to be as dominant as they were last year.
Awesome stuff. One final question. Any thoughts on a first touchdown? That's coming from TS Piggy. Any thoughts on? Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
I got one. Depending on what book you have there, I like the one on Van Jefferson here at plus 4,000. I think that if the Rams come out and are in a longer passing situation, I think that they can have an opportunity there. There's a lot of speculation between Jefferson and Deshaun Jackson splitting those reps. Obviously, Jefferson's been in the system a little longer. I think he could get those reps here. Plus 4,000, 40-1 here is a massive, massive payout on the first touchdown prop. Just sprinkle a few bucks on it and see what happens.
It touches my heart when you say sprinkle. All right. Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
I was just going to say, someone tweeted me this. I didn't verify this, but someone tweeted me this, who is a trusted source, that Tyson Williams tomorrow night is plus 1,200 for the first for Ravens' first touchdown scored in the first half. Tyson Williams is plus 1,200, and if he is leading that backfield in touches, I think that is an awesome value.
Okay, very good. We'll remember to remind people of that tomorrow night as well. Tyson Williams, Ravens' first touchdown currently. Verify it at plus 1,200. All right, AB, quickly throw our recap screen up there one more time before we get out of here. I want everybody to enjoy the game tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed all 3 shows today. We're going to be here every single Sunday during the NFL season at 10 in the morning, noon Eastern, and then 7 p.m. Eastern time. There you see our recap quickly. Emory Hunt's on the Rams. He got it at 8.5. Darrell Henderson over 13.5 receiving yards, and David Montgomery under 15.5 rushing yards. Then you see Alex at 2 props there, Tyler Higbee and Allen Robinson, and then Zach Attack. He's on the Bears plus the points. Andy Dalton over on his pass attempts. Robert Woods over on his receiving yards. And then AB is also on the under. All right, there's only one thing left to do. You've got your marching orders. Let's take all of these Sunday night football tickets straight to the pay window. For Prop Stars, for M Square, for Zach Attack, for AB on the 1s and 2s, I am the coach. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. sharp, on a little show we like to call The Early Edge. Good luck. Do you want best bets in your feed every single day? All you have to do is hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with